Well done on making to the next section of our course or class, create an app prototype, an overview of what we'll cover. We will start with a design brief, so we will cover design brief basics, followed by a user flow, where we will cover user flow diagram basics. Then we will design a low fidelity wireframe prototype, and then we will share our lo-fi prototype for review. Then we will add voice interactions or voice user interface, and we will share this updated prototype for user testing. Then we will go over design system basics, which will be needed for our high fidelity prototype design. And then finally, we will share for development. Hello and welcome to the Get Started with Adobe XD course. My name is Rob Lowe and I'm a certified UX designer and Adobe creative educator. And I have more than a decade of UX, UI and visual design experience where I've worked for large corporates and micro startups. So if you're considering a career in UX and UI design, and you're a complete beginner to Adobe XD and would like to add Adobe XD as a skill set, this course is for you, where we will cover Adobe XD, including the latest features in version 45 and newer. We will learn how to design an app prototype and share it for review as well as development, how to design a responsive web page and responsive web design essentials, and UX and UI fundamentals. So with this course, you'll gain the knowledge and resources to confidently get started with Adobe XD. So I encourage you to download the exercise files and follow along. And by the end, you should gain a basic understanding of UX and UI design. And if I'm speaking too slowly, you can use the playback setting to speed me up. So what is Adobe XD? Adobe XD is a UX design tool. This allows you to design websites or apps, prototype them, and share them for review. There is a free and paid version, with the free version having limits on sharing and collaborating. So for a brief history, around 2010, there were competing UI and UX design tools in the design tool space. One of those apps being Sketch. And October 2015 at Adobe Max, Project Comet was announced. And the following year, March 2016, a public beta of Adobe Experience Design for Mac OS was released. And later that year, it was released for Windows 10. And October 2017, Adobe XD was officially out of beta. And in this course, we will be covering version 45. This was announced at Adobe Max October 2021, and it has new features such as video playback and Lottie animation. So to use Adobe XD, you can download the macOS or Windows app, and this allows you to design and preview on desktop. And there's also the companion app for iOS and Android, which allows you to preview mobile prototypes. So the starter plan, which is free for personal use, allows you to have one active shared link and only one active shared document with up to 2 co-editors. And you can access linked libraries, but you're not able to publish them. Whereas if you're going to use Adobe XD professionally, the paid plan has unlimited share links, documents, and libraries. The full Adobe font library is available, and you have 100 gigabytes of storage. But in this course, you can follow along using the free starter plan. So in this video, we'll cover Adobe XD basics. We'll have a brief overview of the workspace, keyboard shortcuts. We'll switch from the design workspace to prototype mode, and then to share mode. We'll go over cloud documents, layers and groups, how to install plugins and access resources, components, and libraries. So let's cover Adobe XD Workspace Basics. So when you launch Adobe XD, you'll be presented with the home screen. Here you have access to learning resources, your files that are shared with you, and your links. And you also have the preset artboards, which allows you to start a new document by selecting one. And let's start by selecting Web 1920. I'm now presented with the workspace in design mode. And just a note that for this course, I will be using Adobe XD on Mac OS, but you can still follow along on Windows as there is not much difference, mostly being the main menu. So on Mac OS, the main menu is top. And then you have the application toolbar where you can switch between design, prototype, and share mode. You can view the name of your document and save it as a cloud document. You can invite to edit, preview on mobile or preview on device, and preview on desktop. And you have the workspace zoom setting. To the right, you have the property inspector, and this is dependent on what you have selected on the workspace. And to your left, you have the toolbar with the select tool, rectangles, ellipse tool, pen tool, type tool, and the output tool, to name a few. And at the bottom, you have what is selected now, the libraries panel. You can switch to the layers and the plugins panel. And when using Adobe XD, it's recommended to learn some basic keyboard shortcuts. You can download the print-friendly version of the keyboard shortcuts on the Adobe XD user guide website. Some shortcuts that I will use very often would be cut, copy, and paste. So on Mac, that's Command X, C, and V. Windows, Control X, C, and V. Another shortcut would be Command D or Control D for duplicate. And there are many shortcuts to go through, so I recommend downloading the print-friendly version or bookmark. You can also view the shortcut of a tool by hovering over the icon. Or under the main menu. Right, so let's switch to prototype mode. And in prototype mode, this is where you're able to set your interactions, and your selected artboard or layer will have a blue selection, and you can use the arrow to wire up your prototype. And if I switch to share mode, whatever I've selected on my workspace, I can share, and I can name my link, change the view setting, and I have link access settings. It's recommended to save your document as a cloud document. So if I name my document, say, workspace, that will sync it to the cloud or save it to the cloud. And with it saved as a cloud document, I have access to versions. So I can open a previous version in a new window, give it a name, or mark my versions, which is useful if you need to set milestones or revert to a previous design or prototype. But you also have the option to save as a local document. Next up, if I switch to if I view my layers panel, I can search through layers by going to the search bar or search field. As I only have an artboard, I will add a layer to my artboard. I'll just add an ellipse. And here I have under my artboard my layer, and I can mark a layer for export, choose to lock the layer or hide the layer. I can also, if I want, group a layer, and this will give me options such as stack and padding. Next, I'll go through plugins. So if you choose the plugins panel, you can view your plugins, or you can add new plugins. You can choose to go to discover plugins, or on the main menu choose to browse or manage plugins. Let's choose discover plugins. And when I choose discover plugins, I'm presented with the Creative Cloud app, and I can, for example, select featured plugins, and I can browse through the featured plugins and the categories. Or if I want to search for a plugin, say example, a keyboard shortcuts plugin, I can simply type keyboard, and that will bring up plugins. I see the keyboard shortcuts plugin, and I can install that plugin by selecting install. So another useful resource are UI kits for Adobe XD, and to browse the UI kits, you can simply go File, Get UI Kits. Next up, we'll just cover components. So components allows you to easily maintain multiple versions of the same element and include variations for different situations. It is also possible to nest a component inside a component. So let's just demonstrate a component. So say I make this a red circle. Choose to make that circle a component. It will now be green with that little green diamond, indicating it's the main component. And if I duplicate this artboard, I will have an instance of the component which is indicated by that hollow diamond. And if I make a change to the main component, the changes will also reflect on the instance. And lastly, libraries. By switching to the libraries panel, I can create and manage reusable colors, character styles. So for example, I've the circle selected, I can add it as a color. And I can search through my assets of this library, and if I prefer, I can also share and to publish. So it's time for the first exercise of the course. Jump into Adobe XD. So in this exercise, we'll create an artboard. We'll duplicate the artboard and change the color. We will prototype using a transition, and then we will preview the result. Right, so before we start our exercise, we'll need to download Adobe XD. So you can download Adobe XD for free by going to From there, you can download XD for free. Alternatively, you can also go to adobe.com/products/XD. And if you have Adobe Creative Cloud installed on your system already, you can simply navigate to the bottom of all apps to see if it's available in your plan if you don't have it already installed. Right, so now you should have Adobe XD installed, and we can start by choosing an artboard preset. You can choose any artboard preset. I will choose Web 1920. Next, I will duplicate this artboard by either using the keyboard shortcut Command D or going to the main menu and choosing Edit Duplicate. And with the second artboard selected, if I go to the Property Inspector under Appearance, I can change the color. I'll choose maybe a green. And next, I will switch to Prototype Mode by going to the top of the Application toolbar. And I will select the first artboard. And with the first artboard selected, I will drag the handle onto the second artboard. And then I will leave the interaction as is. That is, it's a tap trigger with a transition, and animation is dissolve. So if I go to the top and select Desktop Preview, I tap, and that is my exercise complete.